Hello, long time no see. DP World Tour Picks and Bets is back on Mayo Media Network. Skylar Hoke here with my man Tom Jacobs. Tom, how you doing?
Good, Sky. I kind of wish that we were back under better circumstances. It feels like another rough event. I'm not going to lie to the people. Um, Start of a decent doubleheader though in Spain. I think next week's course is going to be a little bit more enjoyable. But the information is sparse out there for this one, and conflicting as well. So it's going to be an interesting week for sure.
Well, we do have some positive news since we last spoke. You've had your holiday over here to the States. Are we considering you working on the other side as well? Because you're on the official odds checker team. So are you seeing all these terrible bets that I'm placing, or what's going on?
Yeah, I don't get to track them, but I can certainly see where the majority are. So hopefully, we're not influencing two people too much on the wrong side. Hopefully, there's not too many Oliver Wilson and Guido Migliozzi bets this week.
Yeah, that second name, you mentioned that Guido. I mean, the moment we had at that Thursday in Augusta will forever hold up. I mean, I have a sign being printed in my office here. It's going to say -2 through 5, Guido Migliozzi, solo leader, picture of Chris Vernon right next to him yelling, Guido is my hero. I mean, that's really what it's all about. We had that 6-hole stretch where Green Jacket was in play. But we can now take a pass and let him enjoy the rest of the season. As we had our glory moment, and we can focus on hopefully some other picks. Like you mentioned, it's been tough for us so far in the DP World. And just overall, I don't feel like we're just researching wrong or doing anything. It's not that the picks really are that bad. It's just been in and out with the schedule. A lot of lower class fields, variance to the max, and we just hopefully stick to that approach and can find some places and winners as we move forward here.
Think the problem is like every time we get a new event, it's like a little off season we've had in between, right? I mean, it's like we everyone that's been out of form for a little bit just recently has probably had a few weeks to put it right. They've been out of form because they've been playing in South Africa. Maybe they play a little bit, in the continental Europe this time. I don't know what to think, Sky. Like, I'd love to come on here and give the people, really solid information and tell everyone that I know exactly what I'm doing. And we do. There's obviously an element of research which we'll come on to as we go along. But I do feel like it's a week to stay thin on the bets, and just kind of assess where we are, because I think there's going to be a lot of players that come out of a real bad slump and put it right this week ahead of PJ Catalunya next week as well.
Yep, 100%. I mean, this is the second event since, or I guess the first event since the match play week, if we just put ourselves in that bubble. So it's been, close to a month here for almost everybody in the field. So, but without further ado, we'll come in with some energy. We're ready to rock it still. We're going to be playing at the Lakes course in Tarragona, Spain. Has not held an official event here, but we do have some previous Q School that was played at this course. Sam Horsfield was the winner of Q School there. Looks like we, potentially thought or could still have kind of a pitch and putt. It's a shorter course with a majority of that length coming in like 1 or 2 of the par 4s. There's only 2 par 5s, and actually both of them are in the 3 closing holes. I kind of like that. I think that's a little bit unique. You could see somebody really go low to close and kind of make things interesting. So any insight on your end for the course?
Yeah, so I spoke to Charlie Ford, who comes on the Lost for Words podcast occasionally. He was second to Sam Horsfield that year in Q School, and he basically said to me that if it's anything like when he played there, it suits the longer hitters. He said there's only a handful of tough holes, 4th, 12th, and 15th. He said, I think it was the second hole maybe that I've read recently that they've actually adjusted it to a really long par 4 as well. So I'm guessing that might come into that play as well. And then as we got that information, we kind of thought that was where we were going to go, kind of long hitters, drivable par 4s. And then shortly after, an hour or so after, he gets a little bit further information from one of the caddies on site that suggests that it is actually playing firm and fast, and there is some rough up. So that would kind of equalise the field a little bit. So I still think it's going to be. I personally think it'd be similar to like Ras Al Khaimah and those 2 weeks there, where you're going to get 20 under, 24 under, whatever it was between Højgaard and Fox for a winning score. It just might be that the shorter hitters can do better than we previously thought in that hour span. I asked for any sort of correlating courses, and there wasn't particularly. It could be Czech Masters and Portugal Masters were two that kind of flashed up. That certainly ticks a good box for one of the guys that I've put up this week. So, there's a lot of water in play, but it's not a problem. You can just bail out away from it. Being called the Lates course, I was kind of waiting for double bogeys everywhere. Our picks will probably be able to find it, even if it is out of play. But I think that's as much information as we're going to get this week. I think until you play the first round. Then once you've played the first round, you can kind of assess, maybe even save yourself for some in-play stuff if you like as well. But I've just kind of gone with guys that I've been pretty confident with in recent weeks. I know you have as well, looking at your card. And I think there's a couple of variance plays as well.
Yeah. We'll dive right in the top of the board. Rasmus Højgaard is our current 18-1 favorite, looking at the shortest odds across the states here. Rasmus did show out on the PGA Tour in his two events there. I actually thought he had a chance to get into Augusta when he was in the mix Sunday at the Valero. Would have been fun for Rasmus there. You get Burned back playing, Arnaus, and then Nicolai Højgaard, 28-1. Those are the four golfers under 30. Any of them you fancy?
Yeah, so this is really strange for me, but I've gone with two, and I've gone with Adrian Arnaus, and I've gone with Nicolai Højgaard. And obviously Rasmus is, like you said there, has been in great form, right? And Nicolai is lagging behind. He's 4 miscuts recently, but they've all been on the PGA Tour, right? Corellas, Honda, Bay Hill, and one other. And we preempted it before it happened, right? That he was going to struggle over there. Probably not the best setups, and I just think that he's just going to come back and he's just going to play like he did in those Ras Al Khaimah Classic and the other event, the Ras Al Khaimah one there as well. Adrian Arnaus just kind of feels like he's got to win at some point. Like I've been speaking about sort of Shane Lowry recently and having to take advantage of this narrow window, and he didn't yesterday. But I think Arnaus is the same: 3rd, 9th, 8th, and 2nd in 4 of his last 5 starts. It's got to happen for him, right? And I know he lost in a playoff 2 starts ago, so not necessarily, a typical giving it away type thing. There's a couple of playoff losses now for Arnaus. And I just think that a course where he's not going to have to think too much, I think, it's going to be pretty obvious. It's all going to be in front of you, just flicking wedges if you're in the fairway. I think that'll suit Arnaus as well. So I'm basing Højgaard on what he did, at those sort of simple layouts at the Ras Al Khaimah Classic. And I think Arnaus can follow suit as well.
Yeah, it's just so interesting with Nicolai, and it's almost what you like to see with the upside that we know is there. Of course, 2 wins, in his last, 15 events. He literally only has 1 made cut on the season, and it is that victory. And it's wild. I mean, in that second Ras Al Khaimah event, he was one of the better, if not the best ball striker, and still yet missed the cut. So we just know the realm of outcomes is so high. I mean, before that, he finished the year with 2nd and 4th. So it's just, you probably get a little more in the odds because there's zero shock if he misses the cut when, Rasmus hasn't, cracked through yet this year. It's been short, but only missed 1 cut. So interesting. They're definitely a different approach from us. And I've kind of almost, felt that way on the PGA Tour a little bit. Just, you have to be comfortable with guys at this range, and with the ends of this field that we're getting, it absolutely makes sense. Of course, I did dip a little bit deeper. I'm going to go more into the mid-range for me. And it's really because of a couple reasons when I look at these 2, I guess almost 3 golfers as we loop them together. 2 of them off the jump, though, recent form. And by recent, they actually played over the last 2 weeks, 3, 4, where you have these guys playing in Asia, playing well, and having the ability to carry in some form. The first one there is John Catlin. I've always thought highly of Catlin, as both of us did, last year when he had his victory and kind of kept hot in throughout the summer. He does have 8 OWGR wins to his name, won at least 1 event the previous 4 years, including 3 of them in 18 as he built up to the DP World Tour. But, there's just enough in his pedigree that I think he has. And then at the last event that they played, which was the Mixed Cup, where the 15-year-old Rachanan, let's see if I can pronounce it, Chananawan. That was good.
And what I'm going to go with, so.
Yeah, 15-year-old won that event. Unbelievable.
That was crazy, right? I mean, I wish we could focus more on that. And it's going to be a slightly short show today, but that was phenomenal. And it was, one of the other younger guys that we've been looking at that he pipped to the post, and he was only 19, isn't he? So so it's a young person's game now.
Yep. So in that event, Catlin shot the round of the day on Saturday, 66, and then he shot 67 on Sunday, which was one of the better rounds of the day as well. So you have him tying for the best weekend score there. So again, that event was 2 weeks ago. He's been kind of warming up in some of those events. So I like that enough at 55-1. And then pairing that with arguably the Scotty Scheffler of the Asian Tour right now, and that's Schwan Kim. Schwan comes in with another victory, his second one in 4 events. It was the Stableford event. So he opened with a 61, I believe, and a true score. And then on Saturday had another one after he shot 78 on Friday. But he scored enough birdies and eagles in that event to be able to win in Stableford. But I just like somebody playing. I like somebody playing very well in those events. We know the top tier talent is still pretty decent, in my opinion, very comparable in some ways to the top, or at least mid-class of these type of events. So Schwan knows how to birdie. He can go low, and hopefully he can continue that over. And 60-1, I expect way lower than that, truthfully. And I think he opened quite a bit lower. So some spots have him decently long. So I'll pair those two who are playing right now at 55 and 60-1.
Yeah, so Shuang Kim, I think he opened up at kind of 35-1 over here. And when I saw that, I was kind of I'm just not going to fall in what I consider that to be a little bit of a trap. But the 60s one is a completely different ball game. That's probably the price you want to see, and definitely you can take advantage of that. The only slight concern I have with him is it's been a long time since he took advantage on this stage, right? He's had some decent form on the DP World Tour in the past. Hero Indian Open, he was third. Scandinavian Invitation, fifth. China 11th, but they were back in 2018 when he was obviously playing quite well as well. So maybe that's just going to be a resurgence. I think like everybody else, he's just struggling with the schedules, right? He's playing where he can on the Asian Tour consistently, but just can't. If he could make a real run of European Tour events like they were back in the past, ever since it's been a DP World Tour where we thought there was going to be a load of benefit, there actually seems to have been some problems, right? So I think he's one of the people that have lost out there. John Catlin, another one. I think talking back to the firm and fast, helping out some of the shortest hitters, that'd be huge for him, right? Because I think that if there is going to be any trouble in the rough, he's great at getting up and down. He's going to make par on those tougher holes that everyone might, make some costly bogeys or doubles on. And he can score on the par fives, when they're there to be had.
Yep. And that's basically those two selections are. We appreciate Charlie's insight because I think it's going to be helpful when we get kind of narrowed into our long shots. But I think just the opportunity of playing some informed golfers to me, and inform is short for Catlin. It's a little bit longer for Schwan. But those at least stuck out from the odds range. Where are you going next?
So for me, I kind of went a little bit further down. I did initially consider Callum Shinkwin just because he was second here in a Challenge Tour event. I think it was 2014. And that was kind of the problem for me, right? Is that it's been that long. But Sebastian Soderberg was the next person for me. And he was, I think he was 100-1, sort of shortened a little bit our side of the pond. But I opened up Tour Tips this morning and looked, and there was some sort of course form to go by, and it was the Nordic Golf League stuff, right? And you mentioned that at times, and I was a little bit wary because the one he won was called the Lumin Hills Open, and the one he come fourth in was the Lumin Lakes, and I wondered whether they were just both on individual courses, but I think Dig and Dive that they're both across both courses. I'm not entirely sure on that, but there's enough form there, right, to suggest that he can play this golf course well, and I actually think he's playing a little bit better than he's been given credit for. He's 16th, 47th, and 10th in 3 of his last 4 starts. And at Stein City, he was 4th going into the final round. When he was 47th, he was inside the top 30 after 54. And when he was 16th, he was inside the top 10 for 2 rounds as well. So, and that was in the international series in Thailand. So he's playing. It's sort of been quite transferable, his form of late as well. So I do like what Soderberg's doing, and I do think that when it becomes a little bit easier and it becomes a little bit more of a pitch and putt, maybe that is kind of great for Soderberg.
Yeah, just getting him at triple digits feels like he ends up getting in the mix a little bit more than the odds respect. I almost kind of Lemke does a little bit, or did a little bit in the past too. And I kind of pair those guys with it. I'm going to back up before we go real deep into the long shots. My next two are sub 100 to 1. I would almost fill. I mean, you mentioned the Nordic Golf League. I mean, it's kind of a natural transition to where we got our first kind of flash of form out of Marcus Kinholt. And we've now been backing him for both of those events. I mean, he had a very, very strong shot to win. Honestly, both of them. I mean, he misses a place by a stroke when Ashwin Wu wins. Remember, 18th hole, he had found that tree root. Next time out, and that Sunday was wacky in Qatar. It was definitely, everyone came back to the field. Good on Ferguson to be able to win that, and birdie close to have that Chase Hannah in the mix there again. But Kinholt really had a chance. I mean, at some point, he was in there places with ease. So overall, I think back-to-back events of that after showing life in the Nordic Golf Forum, that's enough for me to keep going back to the well. Like Catlin, we know the talent's there. We see some form leading in. Regardless of how this course is going to be playing out, I like Kinholt's skill set and the way he looks right now. So that was the next one for me at 60. Do you have anything at Kin, or 66? He's available still here. Do you have anything else on Kinholt?
Oh, I just agree with what you're saying. Ultimately, I think he's a better player than these odds suggest. I think these odds sort of suggest that he's kind of in the same foot. There's a couple of names in here that I didn't even really know too well, and maybe you could enlighten me. There's a guy that played some sort of Japanese tour event. I think he's gone out in the odds now, but he was there as well. I can't even find his name now, so maybe we won't go into that one. But he was there for a little while, and I was surprised that he was amongst those. Right, I thought that it was a little bit harsh. And then the other name that you're going to come on to in a minute as well, I really liked, because he's the ultimate kind of current form versus, do you know how well he's going to play in this part of the world? Like he's coming out of his comfort zone now into a place where he's going to have to be good for the next 6 months. And we're really going to see what kind of level he's got to.
Yeah, the one golfer you mentioned, Rio Hasatune, Hisatune is that last name. He was a 3-time winner last year on the Asian Tour, or I guess it wasn't the Asian Tour. I think it's a feeder to the Japan Tour, the Abema. Yeah, is that he had 3 wins there. So, but he's only got 2 top 10s on the Japan Tour to close out last year, but hasn't had much form into this year. I am excited for that. I mean, if they're going to start mixing these events with the Asian Tour and the Japan Golf Tour, like, that will bring some life to this, man. I know we have the Scottish Open collaboration happening, which will be great, but we really need some spice in that. So, but the next golfer, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with kind of the lead-in form of what one of our all-time classic original picks. It might have been on like the first show we ever did together. I think you were going to dress up as Henny Duplessis. He's back on our cards this week. He is, I think, 80 to 1. I think he was even longer earlier this morning, but Henny comes in ripping up form. Second in the Limpopo, which was early April. So that's the last Challenge Tour event that happened. Has not missed a cut all year long. Had a 10th inside the Joburg, which I guess was November, a 20th and 8th, 6th at the My Golf Life, so he has shown it. And at this range, my card kind of shifts into feeding into a little bit of the longer hitters. Henny does actually have a decent driver in his bag. It seems like from kind of his overall weighted driving distance statistics. So you kind of get that nick. And then you also have arguably of the guys down here, probably the best form, of anybody down here. So it's a lot. And I like to play for places in this situation, in this type of field. So I think Henny definitely has a shot to get in the mix again.
Yeah, and Henny is probably in the top 10% of current form right now, and it looks it's actually better than it looks, because he gets kind of his adjusted score gets affected because it's a lot of South African stuff, right? And my concern with Duplessis is it's been heavily reliant on playing at home, which is why I didn't go there. But then when I was just looking back, kind of while you were talking there, he played in the Challenge Costa Brava in October, where Hillier won, and just some of the names that are in the top 5 there: Helle Kilder, who's obviously someone that people will be looking at this week; Lacroix, Chase Hannah, Yannick Paul, Schneider, Manacero, people that we've brought up all season long, and he fit right in there. So I think that while he's in the form that he's in, I think if you actually look back at what he's done as a collective over the past 12 months, even, he's probably a much improved golfer than what we've seen. He 15th in Portugal. The Big Green Egg, he was 4th, which actually had Lucas Nemeth, Garcia Heredia. There's four Spanish players in the top 5 in that field as well. So maybe that's a kind of sign of things to look for as well. So Henny Duplessis is certainly an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm ready to wake up for first round leader Henny right in the mix. He's classic on Thursdays. So we've gotten through 4-bind. We're getting into a little bit deeper here. I have a couple more golfers that we'll walk through that I think we can make an argument at triple digits. So who's the last one? I guess you're officially on, right?
Yeah, so the last one for me was Nino Battazio. I just think he's kind of coming back into form now, 25th and 21st over his last 2 starts. And again, a little bit concerned that maybe that goes away because we've had that kind of break, and that is a concern. But I think he's a player a little bit like Matthew Pavon, where he has this kind of upside that we've sort of seen flashes of in the past, but haven't kind of got for a period of time. I think he's got a good driver in the bag. He kind of averages 320 off the tee. He was 21st in Qatar. I can't remember exactly where he was positioned going into the final round. He shot a pair of 71s over the weekend, which, based on the scoring there, was pretty good. And he was 30th in the Dubai Classic, which was a decent result. But going back to Portugal, which Charlie had mentioned might be, a potential correlated form, he was 5th there last year. He's been 4th at the Scottish Open, 14th at Wentworth. Like he's had some really good finishes in better company than this. So I think Battazio, while he's hitting the ball quite nicely, was someone that I was interested as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the flash of the irons in that game feels like once like 4 or 5 events is like leader in strokes gained approach. So I think that's very interesting. I'm going to go next one here for me. I would rival with the longest golfers in the field. Wilco's the clear one. And I debated Wilco here. And we talked sternly probably the last time we mentioned Wilco on this after he missed the cut. I don't even remember. It was the second Ras Al Khaimah event. Was that the one, or it was one
he was
where
it was in one of the first South Africa ones, and he was like 5 or 7 under or something on the first day, and somehow missed the cut, which was devastating.
My golf life. Yep, that's what it was. So then basically write him off. And then he goes 10th, and then he goes 12th the next 2 events. And I'm like, okay, like what is going on here? Maybe he's rounding into something. Maybe this could be some type of event when Charlie goes bomber at this time. Of course, I'm like, oh great, Wilco. He's like 55, 60 to 1.
And you probably don't have to think too much. It probably helps Wilco 9-8 because I think anything that involves any sort of strategy is probably taking it out of his hands. So anywhere that he can kind of just hit the ball, find it, and hit it again is probably good for Wilco 9-8.
And the thing that tripped me up was he plays the last Challenge Tour event. And I think you could seriously say it was potentially one of the worst events he's played in his career. What's interesting too, so if you like go through his form on Data Golf, it might just be like this event. He has 2 events in the last like 3 or 4 years that he has lost to their adjustment like 6 strokes to like the average field. He lost 7 strokes at this one, and then the year before that he lost like 9 strokes at this tournament. So maybe it's the worst course in the world for him, but it's just enough to be like he's just so high variance that I'm going to go to the next longest hitter in the field. It's a long Wilco span, but I think Nicholas Norgard Muller is probably decently there with him in driving distance. And I wouldn't necessarily say consistent, but for 125 to 1, he has not missed a cut in 2022, and he basically has not missed a cut since August of last year. If you remember, he I believe it was his debut. I guess the only European Tour event that he played in 21, he finished 8th at that Maiden Himmerland, where he kind of got into the mix a little bit on Sunday. He didn't hit his irons well there, but he is just very, very long. If we play that, decent form, hasn't missed a cut, upside with the driver if it plays into his hands, I think there's a good amount there in that place value.
Yeah, and he shot a final round 79, I think, in Qatar when it was really tough weather, but was actually 8th, I think, after 54 holes last time out. So he's been playing, but probably a little bit of hidden form in his current form, Nicholas Norgard Miller. Just like you say, 5 made cuts, all of them this season on the DP World Tour. Been high up at multiple times, on occasion, not converting, which was tough, and that's kind of what led me to not finally put him in the end. But he's certainly worthy of consideration. Like, anyone that's actually making the weekend, especially at these kind of really high variance events. I mean, even the first Ras Al Khaimah, he was finished 64th, but he was 14th after 54 holes. Then he finished 42nd, where he wasn't, great all week. 51st at the Kenya Open, he was 24th after 54 holes. He was 21st at Stein City, where he was 7th after 36. And then, like I said, he was 7th going into, not even 8th, he was 7th going into the final round of Qatar and shot that 79, which I don't really, hold against him because it was so windy. He's a, big hitter, and that doesn't always play very well in that kind of weather. So, I think there's definitely some merit to Norgard Miller, and I would kind of put something behind your pick at least without actually going there myself.
Here we go. I'm feeling confident as we're closing out, Tom. I'm feeling good. I know we opened with a little trepidation, but maybe this is our week.
That's just my British. That's just my British. What's the word I'm looking for? We're just misery, basically. I just kind of pessimism is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, I think it's good. Like, I think there's some names down here, right? Before you come on to your kind of final pick, there's some names that I kind of looked at. Chase Handa, you've already mentioned, was playing well. Lucas Nemeth has been playing well. I thought he was interesting. Paul Waring hits it a very long way. Doesn't do a lot else these days, which kind of concerns me. Sean Crocker is getting into some big prices now. I don't know what's happening with him, but he's in some big prices. And Yannick Paul was someone I thought might have slipped onto your betting card.
Yeah, I mean, he was close. If you just go on what should play well here, it feels like it should be him for sure. But you hit the last guy on my betting card there, and it's Lucas Nemeth. He is somebody that I think does have, similar to Moeller, like a lot of 18-hole flashes. Only, I think, one time hitting the board for us. Or not, we weren't on him that week, but he finished second at the first Ras Al Khaimah event with dueling 66s on Friday and Sunday. And then he came out okay when I was on him the next week. But you should see, I just love what Tour Tips does from the stat form. It's just so easy to see somebody with like flashes here. And it looks like they are grading this course a little bit related to driving distance, because he does pop more than most, but they have him ranked as, when he played that specific event, his statistics lined up as the second best fit for this course 3 times in the last, 8 events for him. So I just think there's enough there at 150 to 1 as sprinkles. We can throw on there and hopefully get him into the mix with a top 5 DraftKings value there. But to your point, I mean, he seems more of one of the obvious ones from this longer range.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a really long range guy that I do not want to advocate people put them in like really high, what's the word I'm looking for?
Stakes?
High confidence. Yeah, high stakes,
Okay.
high confidence, anything. But if it does come up on DraftKings, the scoring's not out right. I don't know if they're doing a tournament this week, but Benjamin Polk won Q School by 6 shots here. And he was the only player, I think, ever to shoot all 6 rounds under 70. And he did it at this golf course. He then also played it on the Nordic Golf League, I think, and maybe on the Challenge Tour as well. So he's been here probably more times than you'd want to, but he was 4th before on the Nordic Golf League, and he was 21st as well. So Benjamin Polk, someone that kind of flashes. I think we've mentioned him a couple of times actually on the show, which is really strange how he ever gets in the airtime. But he's 600 to 1, I think he is. So if you really want to have some coffee money on some long shot, Benjamin Polk has won here by 6 shots before.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't put the 2 and 2 together that it was at Lumine like it was. Because, I mean, if you look at that leaderboard, I believe Rasmus was up there. Laurie Cantor was, which points to a little bit of distance there as we're looking through things.
Juan Kim shot an 8 under round on this golf course in Q School. Yeah, I mean, just I'll remember things as we go along, right? Let's not remember these things off the top of the show. Let's bring them in at the end. But Benjamin Polk 6-shot victory over some names at the time. Gregory Havre.
Oh wait, it was Nikolai. It was Nikolai, not Rasmus. Here, I'm looking at it again.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. I'm just pulling this up as we go again. Yeah, Schwan was in the mix. Toby Tree, your friend.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that dominating performance out of Q School. Yeah, and he doesn't have like, well, I guess he's only been playing on the Challenge Tour Poke. But yeah, it's been a little bit since we've seen life out of him. So yeah, I like that kind of connection there. There's a couple Spanish golfers that got into the field this week that hit it forever. Absolute bombers. That again, I'm not like T20, and I just they'll probably be close to min price here. But Alejandro Del Rey, there was a stretch where we were getting on him last week. Out of Arizona State University, one of the best par five scorers in collegiate golf, 59, I believe, on the Challenge Tour last year. So he's got the game. I think Edward Roussad, who hasn't really put it together. For much stretch at all. He almost won the Challenge Tour last year. He was in the mix 54 holes in Canary Islands. I think it was the week that Higo won, or maybe the week that Burmeister won. But Roussad hits it a mile. Very young kid, was the number 2 amateur golfer in the world at one point. Both of those two, I'm excited to see. I'm getting there. I was a little disappointed and didn't understand exactly the invites that the Japanese Golf Tour got, because outside of Rio, that first one we mentioned earlier, the other golfers are like 800 plus to 1. So it's a little curious on how some of these invites worked.
Yeah, I have no idea. It's a wonderful workings of the DP World Tour at the moment. But it's interesting you mentioned those 2 Spanish golfers, because I don't know if you've hacked my Twitter account but there was a conversation between the 3 of us that do the Lost for Words podcast, which we haven't recorded yet, by the way, who both of them mentioned, Jason mentioned Alejandro Del Rey for first round leader, and Brad mentioned Roussad as well. So definitely from that angle, first round leaders are the kind of way to go, I think, with those Spanish guys. It's a tough event, right? There's no getting away from it. It's tough to be massively confident, but I think we've got the formula now, although it kind of contradicts itself a little bit. But I think the idea is it's going to be relatively easy unless it gets windy. The shorter guys are going to come on as long as they can score on the par fives, which the firm and fastness nature of it which will point to as well. So I think it's good. I think there's some good stuff there. I think the next week could be a more interesting event, but this might be a good warm up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go warm it up with a win, Tom. Let's do this thing.
That's
right
the way
here.
you want to do it.
What's your betting card? Review it one more time before we close up.
Yeah, so we've got Nikolai Højgaard and Adri Arnaus at the top at 25 and 28 to 1. Sebastian Soderberg and Nico Bertazio at 100 to 1. I could be talked into Nikolai Muller as well. So, I think I will go with him as well. So I'm going to tail you there and put my faith in you, Sky.
All right. I love it. For me, John Catlin, 55 to 1. Schwan Kim, 60. Marcus Kinholt, 66. Henny Duplessis, 80 to 1. Nicholas Norgard Moller, 125 to 1. Lucas Nemec at 150 to 1. And that'll put a bow on our first show back. It is good to be back, man. It's tough in the rockiness of getting into a rhythm a little bit, but I'm excited. We got a good stretch ahead of us, and we're going to find our form as well as some of our favorite golfers. So best of luck to everybody, and we'll see you next week.